South Africa has contended before the International Court of Justice that Israel has violated the Genocide Convention of 1948. Pretoria has now dragged Israel to the World Court as the conflict worsens in Gaza, and it wants Israel to halt its military operation urgently. We go live now to SABC News international editor Sophie Mokoena, who is in The Hague. Sophie, good evening to you and welcome. What a contrast of scenes today. Protests and polarity just outside of the court. A lot of noise and a lot of activity there, while inside the Peace Palace, quiet and process, really. Tell us a bit more about how developments unfolded today.
Well, Iman, when you look at what transpired early in the morning when we arrived here at the court, many people were already outside court. The activists that are supporting Palestine from different parts of the world, different countries, and also some from the Middle East and in Palestine in particular. And for them, the message was that they were outside to support the South African legal team as it was expected to present that case inside court. And many of them appreciating the fact that a small country in the southern tip of Africa was able to use the UN systems and also multilateralism to try and make the world aware that what's happening in Gaza is currently what they say is a genocide. And inside court, it was warm in terms of the heat inside, but also they were able in a very calm and also in a very professional and very sensitive manner able to present what they were here for. The argument from South Africa is that they want the International Court of Justice to issue a declaratory order or perhaps issue a directive that Israel must stop with bombardment in Gaza. What they did was to present images that spoke to what can be characterized as targeting of a particular group, but also mass killing. But they were very sensitive to the fact that they didn't really use graphic material to demonstrate what they were saying. But another issue was that the legal team was able to put forward an argument in relation to the intention by Israel to disseminate the Palestinians. Now we expect tomorrow Israel to also come up with its own argument. I can tell you now, Iman, that they will start with what transpired on the 7th of October when Hamas attacked the Israel citizens and some of international nationals who were there at that area where Hamas launched the attack. And secondly, at some point in time, I was invited by the Israel embassy at a place where they did show us a video of images pertaining to what transpired on the 7th of October. And therefore, I think we are going to see again tomorrow those images. Those images were taken by the Israel Defense Force, but also some of the material that was collected on social media posted by members of Hamas after the attack to try and demonstrate that what Hamas did on that day was a genocide. South Africa is saying they are here in defense of ordinary Palestinians, particularly women and children. The issue of Hamas, they did condemn that action, but Hamas is not a state. At the International Court of Justice, the court can only deal with state cases, a state to a state, and therefore that is why they are talking about Palestinians within the Palestinian Authority or state, and also Israel as a member or the signatory of the Genocide Convention. And I expect Israel to really try and demonstrate that this is self-defense. But now self-defense in the foreign territory, when you look at what's happening between Ukraine and Russia, these are two countries, and the military for both countries engage in a warfare, much as there are casualties in terms of ordinary citizens from both sides. But in this case, the case that was brought by South Africa here at the International Court of Justice, Hamas is not a state, but Israel is a state and the signatory to the convention or the Genocide Convention. South Africa emphasizing that they took this decision because you'd recall it was 30 years ago, this time around, when Rwanda spoke to South Africa to say, South Africa, speaking to the African National Congress at that time, we are heading for disaster. The genocide is unfolding. Please speak to the then apartheid regime that is supplying some of the rebels with arms. But the ANC at that time and other political parties were preparing for elections and they couldn't do much. And later there was a genocide in Rwanda 30 years ago, 30 years when South Africa is commemorating or celebrating freedom. And therefore South Africa is saying, never again. 30 years ago, we didn't do much. 30 years on, as we commemorate our own freedom, we remember the Rwandan genocide, and we are not going to watch what we think, and we are convinced that it is a genocide that is unfolding in Gaza. Back to you in studio.
International News Editor Sophie Mokoena, thank you very much for that update.